Send your request now, buddy. Right. Perfect, Sheehan. Good night. We are talking about prospecting in December. Send that out. Pin that comment. And we going live on LinkedIn. Good night, folks. Marawada, good night. How you going? And we are live. Oh, I didn't even notice you had on a headpiece. Look at this fanciness tonight. Right?
Good night, peeps.
Is it
Good night,
all?
good night, IG.
Linking live with Lyndon and Jarrod.
All right. Climb down, take your time.
Don't forget yellow.
Yes. Don't forget that part. She forget, you see? She forget part already. Good night, folks. Good night.
What's up?
If you're hearing us
Good night,
loud
everybody.
and clear. Loud and clear.
Yeah, if
You
I'm
know how
sounding,
things doing.
yeah, for the LinkedIn community, if I'm sounding like I'm on auto tunes, my apologies. Just the device that I'm using.
Blame Jarrod.
Good to see you, Jarrod.
But good night. Good night. All right, so hold on. Stop sharing. Why is it sharing the screen? Right. Okay, perfect. So, folks, tonight we are actually doing something. I think this is the first time we're doing something like this, right, Lyndon? To everybody who's joining in. I don't think we have done something like this before.
Like this,
So
yeah, I don't
essentially,
recall.
folks, this is the first day of the last month of the year. In us in sales, it's very important. And I think I came across a really great article by a guy called Callum. He's from a company called Engage IQ. And his thing was just talking about the fact that it's important to prospect in November and to close sales. So I think this is a really interesting article. I haven't showed Lyndon much of it, so he's going to hear a little bit for the first time. But I thought it was a real nice, interesting article to talk about it. And I think it's really helpful for us here in sales because sometimes for a lot of us, we either let go the gas entirely, which kind of impacts what numbers we close in December, because I know we kind of burnt out. You're pushing hard for the year. And this also, I think, impacts us for January.
For January.
So, right? So give us a thumbs up, give us a stars if you're ready to hear the topics. And let us know how your November was, by the way. Would love to hear how everybody's November was.
Yeah. So it's
Right?
it's good to
Hi
share.
Victoria, hi Allison.
Yeah, it's good to share. It's really good to share to hear how your December is looking at shaping up. And Jared, what would you say? How would you say that December is? Well, let's look at it like this. What was your approach to December a couple of years ago as opposed to now? Has there been any particular change?
Oh, that's a good question. My December now, I would say, is slowing down now just to focus only on LinkedIn services. I have
Mm-hmm.
one client now who I am doing sales training and sales coaching for their team. That is
Mm-hmm.
just on like a kind of minor basis, but now I'm actually just prospecting and focusing on what's happening in 2022. So, for example, I just signed off on being a keynote speaker for an event next year in May.
Right. Brilliant. Brilliant.
And then I have training that starting with a client in January one time, probably by the second
Right.
week in January, we're hitting off the
Right.
ground running. And I just want to get more people into my pipeline. So it's a lot different. I don't think I've stopped slowing down in December and actually staying more active because I think
Mm-hmm.
now that excuse of people not being at work and all these things is false. People still doing work. It depends on who the client is.
So you're saying basically that before, let's say in the Samsung days, it was a little bit of a slowdown. What the digital days kind of used to coast it out. Um, if not totally take your foot off the gas, just sort of, just kind of coast it out and then try. Let's say, well, I will pick that up in January. Correct?
Correct. How
Yeah.
was it for you? How was it
I
change?
the exact same thing. And I'll tell you why it changed to as I go on. So for me, it would have. I was comfortable, so I would coast it out in December. We wouldn't really push too much. Everybody would kind of wait until around the 15th of the month. So not really pushing through a lot of the deals, but also not not really having a proper appreciation to a number of things that we'll bring up as points later on. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure what's in the article there from the guy,
I'm
but
giving you surprises, my
um,
friend.
yeah. But yeah, but now it's different. Now I press all the way because I have a better appreciation of a number of things. So the same things that I wasn't aware of in my corporate days, or took for granted, are the things that I do not take for granted. I'm super aware of now. So I'm glad that you mentioned. I'm glad that you said that because we're on the same wavelength in terms
Yes.
of thought.
Correct. So let's set it up. So let the overall thing of this, guys, I think is just it's important to understand Ayadatu Studios. It's important to understand why December now should be a pickup pace. And like I can imagine people like Adatu Studios, how much work they have right now with Christmas pictures, family Christmas pictures, New Year's Day booking, all these other things. So let me get in and read a couple of stuff from the document, right? Because I think it was really good. So the headline says winning December mindset. And I'm going to put the link at the end of this live so you all could check it out. The winning December mindset. And the thing is, the catch is the more meetings you book in December, the harder it is in January. Here are some traps at SDRs, which is sales development reps, fall into that stop them winning in December. What do you think about that, Lyndon? You're muted.
Yeah, I think that is a really interesting point to make. That if you just read it over again for me, he said that the more meetings that you book in December.
Yeah, the more meetings you book in December, the harder it is in January.
Well, I think that as I'm not sure if the hard is supposed to be a positive or a negative, but to me, you would want to have more things in there. So, what is this angle as it relates to saying that though?
Well, let me read a couple of things in terms of the mindset that it says the SDRs have, which it says, I've worked hard this year, I deserve to relax this festive season. It's a
Mm,
3 week month and nobody picks up anyway when I call, which I think is related to us here in the Caribbean. And
mm-hmm,
then we always think that, and then nobody working the week before Christmas. What's the point in dialing?
right.
Which I like the point. I think it's very valid.
Is okay. Hmm, so that's interesting. That it's a 3 week month, and what's the point of working anyway? So I might want to. Okay, that's how I used to think. Let me say it like that.
Yes.
That's how I used to think, and until just before I left, I became independent. And now that I'm independent, I do not think like that anymore.
So let's put this objection in one time because the training I was doing this week, I was mentioning that to somebody. It's so funny
Mm,
that the excuse of where the boss man going on vacation is not really valid anymore because we all know a lot of
valid.
people are still working remotely and it's still
Yeah.
accessible. So I would ask the objection question is it that they're not making any decisions
Hmm.
as he's gone away or is he still open to reviewing items? That's an easy
Yeah.
way to
Yeah.
overcome to understand what's going on. So I understand that. The second page now, here's what he talked about, which I think is key, and this is really important, right?
Hmm.
What has changed since last Christmas? Number one, people continue to work from home. That's
Right.
somewhat factual for us,
Hmm.
right? Prospects who continue to work are more inclined to prospects who continue to work from home are more inclined to work between Christmas and New Year's. So use this to your advantage. Continue to prospect and be bold to suggest these dates when you're scheduling appointments,
Right. I
right?
agree.
Last year
Yes.
was tough. A lot of organizations weren't really pushing through anything, so they were heavily invested in products and services to help their business grow post COVID. And some
Hmm.
of these trends will continue. So you want to make sure and do the push. And then
Yeah.
his third point, which I think is not related, it can't impact the Caribbean yet. And you'll be shocked to hear me say this. He talks about the rise of LinkedIn because I don't think a lot of people in the Caribbean use LinkedIn to that
To
advantage.
that advantage, yeah. They
They don't.
signed up on it, but other than that, they're not active
They're
users.
not using it.
Yeah.
So, so like for me, how I look at this in terms of the Caribbean and what we utilize, I think there's great opportunity to prospect and close business now. Given and for the ones who watch and tell us in the chat, what's your type of business and what it is that if it is that you are doing the prospecting because I think there's a lot of opportunity. I just think a lot of people aren't framing it or using the proper qualifications to understand if the customer is actually an ideal fit to do that at this point in time for the
Hmm.
season.
Hmm.
So what are your thoughts with regard to
So
Christmas?
I Christmas for me is just any other month, if not shorter, maybe about a week shorter. And I have learned to take into consideration, even if I may have 2 weeks just to properly press and at least get some work in, I will do just that. Um, and the reason why I'm saying that is because if I had to go back to my first engagement before all of these work from home conditions that we had, I remember that there was a young lady who was not having a very good sales year. This was 2019, so there was no COVID. And I asked her, she was going on vacation in December. And I said, "You going on vacation in December?" And she said, "Yeah, well, I deserve vacation. You're not having a good year, but you deserve vacation, right?" And I said, so I asked her, "So how much do you get paid? Commission? How do you get paid?" She said, "Well, when you close this business." And I said, "Okay, well, what has been your commissions like?" "Well, I've been making a lot of commissions." "Okay, cool. So what is your commissions going to be like in January?" And she couldn't answer. And I had to ask her why, because then she said, "Well, I'm not going to be here." I was like, "All right, cool. So when exactly are you going to make start making your numbers?" She couldn't answer that. I said, "Well, let me help you. How long does it take for a deal to close?" "On average, 2 months." So she was looking. She didn't recognize that going on vacation in December. Listen, I'm not saying do not go on vacation in December, but I'm just
Right.
saying that in this business of sales or entrepreneurship, you have to understand a number of things as it relates to your business, especially when sales is involved. And what I was just explaining to her is something along the lines of activity and cycles, because she didn't understand that her sales cycle is going to affect her. She's not going to close any business in January, and then she's not going to start seeing any commissions until maybe mid-February or March. Why?
Yep.
Because she has a 2 month time frame on average to close any opportunity. That is how we have to be thinking. And if we're not thinking like that, then
Yeah.
to an extent, to be honest with you, you're not supposed to be on the front line. That might come off kind of being harsh, because you're going to be affecting your business, your results. So sometimes
Agreed.
as sales reps, we need to understand our own rules and activities, and see exactly as to where how are we impacting ourselves. So that's my thoughts as it relates to December, and I'll go deeper into that as we go along. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think here's what. In the past, honestly, I would have think that it didn't make sense prospecting. But I think if you understand that your customers have a need and you create an outcome that impacts your business, especially during the peak season, you have to honestly prospect. Remember, at the end of
Yes.
the day, you have to get over the mindset that you're disturbing or disrupting people, and you have to understand the fact that you're actually helping people. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
big mindset that you need to overcome, right? I know
Mm-hmm.
we
Yeah.
want to spend time with Christmas and family, but the only thing I disagree with Callum stuff, I agree. I think his whole emphasis, and I'll read out a couple of things, is that he is saying that some people take December prospecting to push it into January, and he think that's a mistake. He think deals could actually close in December. And
Close.
I
Yeah.
think you're right. I think there's a lot of buying to happen. So I just think for us in sales, I think the qualifying and understanding where the prospect is with regards to interest in the product and how fast they could take action is key for you to understand. Right? So
Mm-hmm.
let me just read out a couple of comments because we have some coming in. Debbie says, Debbie! She's prospecting right up until December
Wait a
22nd.
second.
I absolutely agree. Sean is saying business process consulting on LinkedIn is my gateway to the world. Listen,
Literally. Yeah.
you know LinkedIn is life. Hey
Yeah.
Amanda
Yeah.
Crespo, what's up? Um, and Debbie's also saying it's like any other month, just a bit shorter. Her V is on vacation, the 23rd to the 28th, and I'll have VAs help me push as well. January cannot be dead. Agreed,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
right? I live by my calendar and the booking as a consultant. I sell time. I'm always 2 months out minimum. So for me, it's not about what month, but it's based on my calendar.
Your calendar. Yeah. Now, I want. Can I add to that too? I would like to say that it all comes down to, I guess, what you sell, right? So
Yeah,
for me, most of my sales have all been solution type sales, consultative. We have long sales cycles, but there will be people who would have shorter sales cycles, and stuff that you can actually crunch out in December. So why take the time off? Especially if you know that when you close those opportunities, you're not going to get paid until January. You understand?
exactly.
So line up your commissions for January one time.
And I think you see, but also all this goes back to having a full pipeline because, as we say, things close and things don't. So you want to make sure that you always have stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I think, like for the Caribbean, I'm not sure how it is. I mean, Sean, you in Canada, so you can tell us. They always say January is a slow time for sales, but again, based on what your product is and based on when they start having the discussion with the customer,
Right.
right? To me, there's opportunity to be had. There's deals to close. You
Right.
shouldn't be waiting. So that's just my only concern that I think. And I'm gonna read, so I read out a couple more things that Sean wrote that I thought was interesting. He
Hmm.
wrote a pretty interesting script. Now, this script is based on the angle that you are already having a discussion with the customer,
With somebody. Right.
right? Which I thought the perspective on this was pretty good. So he says, "Hi, it's Callum here from Engage IQ. How have you been? I would not ask anybody how. Actually, no, it's an existing client you're talking to. So he says
You
you'd
would.
have had at
You
least
might
one
be in
phone
a personal.
conversation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, so you say, how have you been? Great. The reason why I'm getting in touch is that we spoke earlier this year about enabling your sales development team to spend more time speaking to engaged prospects. When we spoke, you mentioned something that would be more relevant in 2022. And the reason why I was calling is that at the start of the new year is always manic, but I normally
Hmm.
found the week before Christmas to be surprisingly chill. How was your
Right.
diary fixed up on the 22nd or 23rd of December for us to explore how you might generate more pipeline next year? Now, I think it's long, but I like the whole essence of it because I just think it's important because he called out a couple of things to the customer to respond to, which is the New Year's is always manic. And so let's talk about that. Reps fall into the trap of the customer say reach back to me in the New Year, and when they call them back in the New Year, boy, I now come in office and this thing and this meetings. So you lose
Right.
out another 2 weeks.
Yes.
Like the client I spoke to, we probably by next week you'll have our dates finalized for training in January.
Hmm.
I'm not. There's no time to waste in that aspect. I think you should always book and have clients booked down at those times. So I think that's pretty good. What are some of your
Yeah.
thoughts on the script?
I like the script. I do like the script. I think I wouldn't have anything negative or to add to that script as well. Again, I just believe to me in something like this, where JB, I think your sales activity and your sales cycle and where that actual deal
Yeah,
is what will drive your the actions. Meaning that you would know, okay, this type of email needs to go out around this time of the year or at this particular time to excuse me, to close the opportunity, either close the opportunity in December or very early in January. So I actually do like that script because I just like the way he actually structured it. And again, it's not a brand new person that he's trying to reach out to, but he's just trying to see if he can set a date early so he's picking up his momentum by the beginning of the year, that type of thing. So that's a pretty good script.
yeah. So he also talked about a good. So the only thing he talked about a couple other good things because he said a great SDR no taking 1 or 2 days to book and squeeze in as many meetings as possible kind of saves you the headache for 2022. So he talked
Yeah.
about a couple of things like making sure if you send out meeting invites and they won't accept it, make sure you send out the meeting invites. Send out
Mm-hmm.
reconfirmation email, prepare a video script for some of them, schedule callbacks with clients who might have been busy, prospect with people on LinkedIn, of course, and then he also said anticipate a blizzard of reschedules as people plan their new year and things kind of change up for them a bit because I think
Mm-hmm.
that's important too as well,
Right. So
right? Mhm.
go ahead, you finish your point. I don't know if this might be a little bit of a devil's advocate thing or just a point for us to note, but you go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So he said nesting here in Canada is important. Decisions are not made in January. The idea is to do all the demos now. Give them idea to let it simmer and follow up in January. Set the seed now and water it in January. The day you
Right.
plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. Correct.
Yeah. So the point I wanted to make too is that something I normally tell people when coaching is that one of your first negotiations isn't like your main negotiation sometimes isn't the one where you submit the proposal, it's just to start getting the customer's time. Right? That's your first negotiation. And
Correct.
excuse me, what if because a lot of the things as it relates to booking those meetings and closing those opportunities really comes down to the customer saying yes. So what is the strategy if the customer doesn't say yes? That's where I believe now that having a nurture strategy in between. So whether they say yes or no, and again, it all comes down to what is it that we're selling, right? And what stage the deal is at. Because if I know that the customer is not going to be available at a particular time, it doesn't mean that I can't do anything, right? I could still be prospecting. I can do video prospecting. I can do demos. I can do product review, and you could do things within that time. And you
I
just
think
use
there's tons of
technology.
activity you could do.
Yeah, so you could still do things that represents sales activity in that time. So you can line up. So this week you send this out, next week you send that out, and then so you know that your third week, and each one of those two messages, whether based upon the weeks that you send it out, always have your call to actions in there. You understand? So again, your prospecting activity does not have to die in December, but if you, unless you're using a traditional prospecting activity, which is like always making sure you're picking up your phone, X, Y, Z, But if you are using other things to nurture your customers, I think I heard Sean talk about, well, what Sean mentioned there was nurturing without using the word nurturing, you know?
Yeah. No,
So,
because
so
I think you're absolutely right.
yeah, because if they say no, then what do I do? And that's where again I could now restructure my approaches to meet the customer where they're at and still nurture them in between that time. So you're getting on into email marketing, etc., etc.
So I
At
think
least
the
that's my
key
thoughts
thing
on that.
here, no, I agree. And I think the key thing here when you look at what the message is, I think it's so key and so important to qualify a lot of these customers to see where they're at. And I think this goes to you understanding, as I say, as Lyndon said, their sales cycle, but to understand where this person is in their buying cycle.
The cycle.
If
Yeah.
you if so the thing is, if you have a sales cycle that is less than 2 weeks, then you need to be prospecting in December and you need to be prospecting because okay to few in January, which is why it shouldn't stop.
Yeah.
Right? Because and the thing is, yeah, you say in 3 weeks. I know people who stop selling from the 15th of December to the new year. That's 2 weeks of prospecting
Yeah.
gone. And I'm
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
zero prospecting and being a different time now. There are people who not even saying, all right, are not making physical calls, but my email campaigns running. Not
Mm-hmm.
even that you have going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, I think it's real valid to do prospecting in December. I think a lot more people, if they are on vacation, they may be looking at emails, they may be responding to certain things. So if you could get your messaging right and
Yep.
utilize social media channels, you could have a conversation with your customers, or you could at least remain top of mind. So you
Yeah.
could get the ball rolling either in December if you understand your sales cycle, or it's something you kick off as soon as January starts.
Yeah.
You know what I realize a lot of people don't do as well? I think on like a fair exchange of ideas, and anybody who's listening could tell me. I think a fair exchange of ideas in the sales process is to, in the process, is to actually tell a customer what your plan is in terms of your roadmap of how you
Mm-hmm.
want to sell them and ask them what they are anticipating in return. So,
Yeah.
in other words, I realize for a lot of the sales training I'm doing now, I always ask, does your customer know what's the next steps? In other words, like you thinking at the closing stage, but do they know how long it takes to sign up the documents? What's the next steps and everything they need to commit to? So you could
Mm-hmm.
get those small micro commitments from them. And when they get those micro commitments now, you understand if the customer is serious about closing now, if they're serious about closing in the new year.
Yeah. And
Because you could just read the vibe from some people.
do you think that that would also give you an understanding as to their process? Because if you're talking about how long it'll take to sign something,
Yeah, that's what I'm
let's
asking. I'm asking
what,
to say
yeah,
what are you going to do?
yeah. Because what happens if let's say again it's all based upon what you're selling in the organization. What if what they have to get signed off has to go to legal abroad? I had that a couple of times happen to me. We had to send documents
Yeah,
to
boy.
legal Texas. You understand? So again, it's the reason why we're bringing these things up are because these are the things that stall your process. So if you're waiting to do that in January, you know, try to see if you can get it out now. I think another good one too is that if you know that the decision is not going to be made in December for whatever reason, let's say customers are going to be out, right? Because we know people who are
The
genuinely going to
decision
be out for
makers
two
out.
weeks,
The
right?
decision makers out. They're not responding to emails. They're out.
It doesn't mean that the office closed. So, what additional information could you get in between that time by talking to other key people that you will be impacting based upon your services that you're offering in the organization? How can you use that
Exactly.
time to get more information, learn more about their business so that when you sit with the decision maker, you can say, when you were out, I was actually having a conversation with your services team or your customer success team or this particular person who's going to be interacting with your customers, and I recognize that what we need to include is this. What they will say is that, hey, you know what? I'm glad that you did that because so all you're doing is strengthening your offering. You're doing some additional research because you want to really solidify
Getting your
that
insights.
commitment. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
So
I'm
you don't have to be
I
inactive.
love the article. He listed out a couple more points, and as I said, I'll put it there for everybody to check out. I just think it is literally a great a great insight. So, like for example, something he said was 88% of meetings go ahead when there's a calendar invitation accepted by the prospect, and the
Mhm.
meeting is reconfirmed in the 48 hours before it's due to happen,
Right.
which I think is
I
a
would
good.
agree with that. I would agree with that. Yeah.
He
I
also
mean,
said a couple.
no, you go ahead. He also said,
He also said a couple of things with the calendar invitation, and I think this one is key because sometimes, like what I would recommend, because this works, some of us have automated calendar setup systems. So like we might not send it up, but the client books it. But
hmm,
even if it's out a couple months, I would recommend like when the new year starts, you update the header because it might have the automated creation from like your HubSpot, etc.
yes, yeah,
So he says something great here, which is put together a punchy subject line, right? And
hmm,
personalize it. If it was a cold email, make sure to include an agenda. Hands down, folks. Don't book a
yes,
meeting and don't send an agenda. Like
hmm,
make sure and show that professionalism. People appreciate it, especially if you have a timestamp, like how long you plan to do each segment for. You're gonna have more attendees in the meeting, especially when they state what each person's purpose is,
yeah.
right? Add a call to action to your invite. A response is a good invitation, indication of that of engagement. And of course, based and I think all our automated systems set this up, set an automatic reminder 48 hours before the meeting. So this serves as
Well,
a prompt.
yeah, I know HubSpot does it. And that, well, your regular calendar wouldn't do it. At least I don't
Yeah.
think so. Unless you
Nah,
can set it up that
regular
way.
calendar doesn't.
Yeah, it wouldn't do it. Yeah,
Regular
so
calendar doesn't.
HubSpot does it for us, but I know Calendly and all these other tools, sales tools,
Yeah.
they
So
actually do it.
I know we have about only two persons listening on IG right now, but tell us, are you doing any planning for your are you doing any prospecting for your for your December month and how it's gonna affect you in January? And for those listening on LinkedIn, let us know. Like I know
Yeah.
see Candace joining. Are you doing your prospecting? And I think actually, let's put it this way. Like even when I look at people like Candace, who's an excellent VA virtual assistant, how you could actually talk to customers now who planning to implement or who trying to reduce their workload or be more efficient next year. So
Yeah,
you could
yeah.
actually start that conversation with them now so they kick off with
You
you
hear
on
properly.
January 2nd.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's I think that's how I actually started with Tunisia. I think I started back in December.
With Tanisa.
I think I started in December, yeah, with my
I
VA.
I would say, bro, for me, again, I like one of the things I have really been spending a lot of time on over the last maybe 6 months has really been understanding sales cycles and buying behavior.
Yep.
And once you understand that, it's like so far I've been able to make particular predictions that have all worked out. Today I got an approval, and and the approval is for January, but I just knew that that was going to happen, you know. But again, understanding the sales cycle and the buying behavior, like how many different steps that customer actually had to take. And it really isn't hard sometimes for you to slow yourself down and understand those things about the customer. But at the same time, doing the work from up front. So I know that sometimes on average it takes me about 3 months to close certain types of opportunities, right? And if I understand that and I understand what my revenue goals are, then it also means that I have to put a certain amount of work in to have those opportunities. Another good thing for people to understand based upon what we're talking about here, because nobody is a one-to-one closer. Nobody, right? Um, is really a closing
Are
rate.
you saying I think that's possible, Lyndon? I think I'm a one-on-one
Yeah.
closer.
Oh, you're a one-to-one closer? Oh, you're a gem, boy. You know, but really understand your closing ratios, because your closing ratios would also tell you the amount of activity you need to be doing, what really should be in your pipeline. Because if something does fall out, what happens? You know, not every deal you have in your pipeline is going to close or it's going to close now. But what do you need to have? And the more that you make that a science for your own self and for your business, you'll tend to find that closing is easier,
Yep.
or your predictability in your sales is going to be a lot easier, and then you can use
Yep.
all the additional tools and stuff. That's what I've really been studying over
No,
the last couple of months, few months actually.
I agree. And for everybody who's joining us again, 'cause I know the numbers keep changing up on LinkedIn a bit. We're just talking about why it's important to prospect in December. We had a great article from Callum from Engage IQ. It's in the chat. Just talking about the mindset that you need to have with regard to prospecting in December. Some people kind of give up too early, they stop, and then
Yeah.
not only does it affect how much they close in December, but it also impacts your January as well. So
Yeah.
we were just talking about the article, sharing a couple of different points and perspectives. Myself and Lyndon, like I'm not taking on any major sales clients for training, but I
Mm-hmm.
am continuing my LinkedIn optimization for clients
Right.
probably
Right.
straight up till
Because it's
December
revenue, right?
22nd.
Yeah.
It's revenue.
It's
It's
revenue.
easy
Yeah.
stuff that I could do.
It's not major project
So
work, but it's revenue. And that
so
actually brings up another point. Sorry, that I wrote here. That
mhm.
which is your business offerings, because there are certain business offerings that you know that you wouldn't be delivering on in by the end of the year, but there are smaller business offerings that you can still push through to get your revenue. You understand?
Can we
And
say
your
as a
bigger
side
projects
point?
can start in Jan.
Can we say as a side point for some persons, this would be
Yes.
like a good time, like because I one goal I didn't have this year that I wanted to do was to have a LinkedIn course, and I
Hmm.
didn't get around to that. It's a 2022 goal now. But imagine if you have that running, you could actually earn revenue
Yeah.
too. That is technically a inbound and a prospecting. So
That's where
that's
you
like another
promote.
email campaign.
You can be promoting that to get people ready for 2022.
Yeah.
So that could have,
So
that would have been doing its work, that kind of thing. Yeah.
correct. So I think
So,
that's a good aspect in terms of when you look at what opportunities there are in December. I just think, when people always say people out on vacation or they're not there, like
mhm,
I'll put it to you this way. If you're speaking to the champion in your organization or even somebody who could assist you, I think you should still take that opportunity if you know the account is worth it to continue prospecting to them,
yeah,
especially if
yeah,
the gatekeeper is the person who's assisting you, because
mhm,
that is pipeline for January.
yeah,
That person will let you straight into the door when things are happening.
yeah.
And again, you should not give up on customers if you know that by them implementing a solution or product now is going to make a positive impact immediately. So I think Lyndon spoke about it. Not only should you be aware of your of your sales cycle, but you should be aware of the ROI that your product brings to the customer so that you understand that the reason why you're reaching out to them is that they can actually have an impact in this time frame, etc. So that's why I want to put it in place. And it's not just with an immediate time frame, like if something is selling now, but if you know that based on what the customer goals are, that they're trying to get a goal in time for, like, because some people's end of financial year is not calendar, it a
Hmm.
lot of them actually finish in March and
That
April.
too.
By them
Yes.
putting in the solution now, they'll have the results that they need for then. So
Yeah.
like you need to start putting in some of the work now. Like I don't think December is a time to give up. I think December is a great time to prospect, and as Sean said, like really focus on qualifying, really understand like if this customer is ready now or if they're ready in January.
So if I had to lay one last point, can I just lay the last point?
Of course.
Yeah. So I think everything that we spoke about must start with mindset, right? As for you as a salesperson, as an entrepreneur, as a professional, it has to come down to mindset. So let me just share the other part of the story that I started off with a young lady who was going on vacation. So she took my advice, and while she was home, she was prospecting, right? She actually closed two opportunities while she was home, right?
What?
Yeah, and here's how she closed it, right? She couldn't go to meet the customer to do a demo. She didn't even ask a friend. You know what she did? She pulled a YouTube video about the product and linked it into an email with the customer. The customer saw it, bought 45 chairs. You understand? So that's one. The other thing that changed her, her energy changed because it was the first time that she took some sort of action in the month of December and started to see results, and it gave her momentum in January. Here's
Yep.
the other thing: the way that she started her year was so good. She went to one customer, and that customer liked her energy so much. The customer headhunted her, took her out of that
Wait.
organization, took her out of that organization, and brought her into another organization. She worked with them for a year. She grew, right? She became so much better. So she was a totally new individual just by changing your mindset in December. The next year was a totally different year for her. She went while providing services to one customer to another customer in a new job. That other customer had hunted her, and she's now part of a larger conglomerate, working with a large trading company now. But it started in December by telling her, do not take any time off.
Respect.
Start prospecting. You need to earn money. You need to have a different approach to your
Respect.
business. That was Shannon's story.
Respect.
Shannon, if you hear this, I just want to say she's one of my proudest students. She just did it
That is
because
amazing.
Yeah. So she moved to two organizations in 3 years. You
Yeah,
understand?
no, but you're
One
correct.
to
I
one
just
to
think,
one mindset.
hey, good night, J41. Shannon, how you going? Rapworks, thank you for the love. Give us some hearts. We're just talking about the importance of prospecting right now.
Hey Shannon.
Um, during the during December. As I said, Linden Point, look valid. I just think there's so much opportunity out there, and I think my wrap up. Do not underestimate how the buyer has changed because of the pandemic, and I think that's something that works to your
Yeah.
advantage. And people are no longer. I don't think everybody still operates seasonal. I think people
True.
operate on a very shorter time span, and I think that gives you an opportunity to get your business. So don't stop prospecting, don't stop filling up your pipelines, don't stop creating those opportunities for you for December and for 2022. I think there's a lot of deals to close.
Yeah. I
Just saying,
totally agree with you.
right?
Solid
For
points to
those of you in
close.
sales, I wanna wish you an amazing December. Um, I just wanna wish you all your targets, all your prospecting, all your goals set are crushed, demolished, annihilated, and that it leaves you smiling for December, smiling into January 2022.
Yeah, man.
Cool?
Yep.
Nice. Thanks, your brother.
Yeah,
I know
man.
we'll talk soon again. We have more business to talk because we have things to organize for next
We
year.
have things to organize, yes.
Yes. Have a
All
great
right,
night,
IG.
folks.
All right, LinkedIn. Take care. Peace.